Warpugs, here we are. I thought we were at the end of it, but Ronnie let me know there's one last thing that I haven't seen that the Operation Room put out, and this is, of course, about Desert Storm, and this is when the battleship, USS Missouri, came underneath Iraqi anti-ship missile attack. No. Fat chance, my 15-inch shells say no. 15 or 16, I can't remember exactly what the Missouri had, but I'm pretty sure he's going to let us know. The anti-missile defense systems of the Missouri had been beefed up quite sufficiently by the time this would have happened. They would not have sent it in there without, significant upgrades. But we actually had battleships giving shore. That is the nuttiest thing for me. The World War II era battleships were used for shore bombardment. And I don't know if you know how nightmarish it would be to have a battleship doing shore bombardment, but I'm pretty sure if you asked around to people that were there at the time, they could tell you it's just not a good day. It's not a good day in any way, shape, or form. But Warpugs, we're going to jump right into this. It's the operations room. Please check their link in the description down below, because not only do they have the entire series on Desert Storm, they also have a lot of other things. And just based off what I've gathered and what I learned, past what I already knew about Desert Storm from the operations room, I highly recommend this channel. So let's jump right into this. All their links are in the description below. Let's get right in. And I love their new intro. Well, new intro. Whee!
Today we're sponsored by World of Warships Legends, a free-to-play console online multiplayer game where you can command the hardest-hitting World Wars 1 and 2 warships. Recruit legendary commanders, upgrade your vessels, and stake your claim to naval supremacy with or against players around the world in varied, thrilling, and immersive battles, with a constant flow of new in-game content. Download World of Warships Legends for free from the PlayStation or Microsoft Store, and enjoy stunning ocean graphics on PlayStation 4 and 5, and Xbox One X and Series X. For their second anniversary this month, jump into 3 new seasons of summer ranked battles and a campaign offering the deadly German destroyer ZF-6 as a reward. New players can follow the link in the description and use this code on sign up for 7 days of premium, the Tier 2 US Navy destroyer Smith, the Tier 2 Soviet cruiser Aurora.
I doubt this promo's still running.
20 eco-tile camera
just saying.
And 20 rare boosters. Jump into World of Warships Legends for naval combat on the oceans today. On the 24th of January, a week into the air war of Desert Storm, 2 Iraqi Mirage F-1s take off from Al Jarrah airfield armed with the proven and feared Exocet anti-ship missile, a weapon that has in the recent past severely damaged and sunk US Navy and Royal Navy warships. They head southeast towards the Persian Gulf. The Iraqi Air Force is going to try to do what it hasn't attempted thus far in this conflict, to sink a coalition warship. In November 1990, 2 months prior to this moment and during Desert Shield, the build-up of forces in Saudi Arabia prior to Desert Storm commencing, the US launches Operation Imminent Thunder, a dress rehearsal massed amphibious assault involving 20 vessels and 18,000 sailors and marines on Ras Al Ghar in Saudi Arabia. The 4th and 5th Marine Expeditionary Brigades then embark on 5 amphibious assault ships and remain in the Persian Gulf. Desert Storm begins on the 17th of January 1991 with the 5-week air campaign against Saddam's military. The coalition's naval forces conduct cruise missile strikes, anti-ship operations against the Iraqi Navy, anti-mine operations, and naval bombardments against Iraqi positions on the Kuwaiti coast.
It was an anti-ship operation until the Iraqis ran out of ships to play with.
Given the press coverage of Imminent Thunder, and knowing that those amphibious troops are now massed just off the Kuwaiti coast, Iraqi divisions are deployed along the coastline to defend against the amphibious assaults they believe will come. This brings more Iraqi troops into range of naval bombardment, and weakens the Iraqi front line facing the coalition to the south. Of the approximately 100 combat vessels of the coalition naval forces, most are positioned in the Gulf, and Saddam knows that these vessels are doing untold damage to his forces in Kuwait.
Yay!
On the 24th of...
Oh, and if you're wondering how accurate shore bombardment could be, nightmarishly. I will say it like that. Nightmarishly. The 5-inch guns of a cruiser and a destroyer, and even the frigates, can... I don't know if I can be too specific, but they can nail a target. I'll just put it to you like that.
January, the flight path of the 2 Exocet-armed Iraqi Mirages is causing confusion for coalition air controllers. They're manoeuvring, almost as if it was on purpose, right along the border between the area of responsibility of the US Air Force and the US Navy, and are now heading southeast along the Saudi coast. This has caused confusion, and now no US aircraft are in range to intercept them. At any moment, they will likely turn to port and make their attack against coalition warships in the Gulf. The aircraft are just minutes from a potential launch range. British hospital ship RFA Argus has positioned herself on the western side of the fleet in order to receive helicopter casualty evacuations if required. She is likely the Mirage's target. Guarding Argus is Type 22 frigate HMS Brazen, which has just detected the bandits. She has a problem though. Her crew have just discovered a fault in one of her Seawolf anti-aircraft missile launchers.
Ooh.
It's not clear whether she will be able to defend herself and the hospital ship at full efficiency. A young radio operator aboard HMS Brazen, Radio Operator 2nd Class Paul Charlton, is just 20 years old and is on his first ever Navy deployment. He has no idea that Mirages are moving in against his ship, and at this moment he receives a high priority radio message. Protocol demands that he hand delivers this message to the ship's operations room. 20-year-old radio operator 2nd Class Paul Charlton would, later in life, create a YouTube channel called The Mighty Jingles. Upon arriving at the ops room, he recalls the following.
I know this channel. I know this channel. One second. I know this channel. Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. This is the channel that I watched back in the day. Like, way back in the day. It's been so long since I've seen this guy. He was one of my favorite channels back in the day. Oh, God, what did he watch? What did he do? He played a lot of World of Tanks and World of Warships. I believe that's what he did. I think that's where oh, that is so cool, guys.
An immediate priority signal, an immediate precedence signal had come in that had to be rushed to the PWO, the Principal Warfare Officer, who was on duty in the ops room because we were at action stations. I didn't know why we were at action stations. I didn't know we were under direct attack. Walked into the ops room, immediately knew something was going on. Got rugby tackled by the ORS, the ops room supervisor, who was a chief radar operator, and told in no uncertain terms to not bother anybody for at least the next 5 minutes. So I just had to stand there and wait, and had a grandstand view of the ops room coming together in order to fight this threat. So yeah, they were close. They were really close. The thing is, the procedure because they were going for the Argus, the hospital ship, we were just in the way. Our response would have been to put ourselves in the way.
Exactly.
Intercept the missiles with Seawolf if we could, and if not, launch decoys and hope they went for the decoys, because if they didn't go for the decoys,
you take the hit.
We were going to have to take the hit.
This is the job. This is part of the job of, if you're on cruiser, destroyer, frigates, like smaller ships, you are going to put yourself in the line of fire to protect the high value unit, the amphibs, the carriers, those types of things, and hospital ships, yes. And if you cannot stop whatever's coming, you take that hit.
I tried to give this signal to the PWO and was immediately shoulder charged by the ops room manager and told to leave him alone, don't interrupt, we're busy. And that was the precise moment when a pair of, I believe it was Saudi Arabian Air Force F-15 Eagles, intercepted these two bandits when they were about 2 or 3 minutes outside of Exocet launch range.
Ugh.
So I was standing there in the ops room just watching all of this happen and suddenly realizing, wow, this war suddenly got very exciting.
Anticipating that the Iraqis might also launch land-based anti-ship attacks against the coalition warships, the air campaign extends to include strikes against mobile launchers and storage facilities for Iraq's 50 to 70 Chinese-built HY-2 Seersucker land-based anti-ship missiles, a variant of the earlier Silkworm missile. Saddam has set up a storage facility inside a girls' school in Kuwait, correctly assuming that the coalition won't launch airstrikes against it.
It is something that you can't explain to people here, because to civilians most times, because they simply won't understand it. Yes, they will hide munitions in churches, in mosques, in anywhere that they know that the civilian population of the West will literally lose their minds if they're hit. I mean, that is the first thing that they will, that's the first place they're going to put them, is in places that we will not want to hit. And you can't explain that to people because they don't want to believe it's true. And that's the sad thing. That it's not really the sad thing. It's actually kind of annoying when you try to explain to people why certain targets are hit, why certain targets eventually are chosen. It's not out of any malicious intent. It's not out of anything like that. It's just that's where they're putting everything. That's where they're hiding their missiles. That's where they're hiding their munitions. That's where they're hiding all their stuff. And if you don't think that they do this, they do it all the time, okay? I mean, like Hamas has done it God knows how long. Al-Qaeda did it. Name a group over there that has not done it. I'm just saying.
These images show the Seersucker missiles on trolleys in the school corridors. By the 20th of February, Coalition intelligence believes that all launchers have been destroyed, along with most of the missiles in theatre. Unfortunately, this isn't the case. At 4:52 AM on the 25th of February, an A-6 intruder is flying on a bombing sortie over Kuwait and Iraq. The crew spots 2 plumes of smoke as 2 land-based anti-ship missiles are launched out into the Persian Gulf. The first crashes into the sea immediately, but the second levels out and makes its way towards its target, a battleship that first served in World War II, the USS Missouri. The missile travels at just under the speed of sound, but at a relatively high sea skimming altitude of between 400 and 700 feet. The A-6 that spotted the launch transmits a warning to US Naval Forces Central Command, but this hasn't been forwarded to the group in time. The Missouri is escorted by US Navy frigate USS Jarrett and minesweeper USS Avenger, and British Royal Navy destroyer HMS Gloucester, frigate HMS London, and minesweeper HMS Cattistock. Gloucester is the first to detect an incoming contact by radar at 21 nautical miles range, inside a designated air lane for coalition aircraft returning home after hitting targets in Iraq and Kuwait. She executes a snap turn to starboard to unveil her Sea Dart anti-air missiles near her bow.
Nice.
Her crew are under pressure to defend the surface group, but also to prevent a potential friendly fire incident. 43 seconds after the contact was first spotted, the crew of Gloucester correctly classify the contact as an incoming anti-ship missile, and 2 Sea Darts are launched. As the Sea Darts are on their way, the Seersucker is visually spotted by lookouts on Missouri. She dispenses chaff countermeasures into the sky around her, attempting to confuse the enemy missile's radar, and switches her Phalanx close-in weapon systems to auto-engage. Just 4 nautical miles away, Gloucester's Sea Darts arrive and destroy the missile mid-flight.
Very nice.
Missouri's Phalanx never opens fire, possibly because its radars were being confused by her own chaff, or because the Seersucker hadn't achieved a good lock and appeared to be missing astern of her. The entire defensive engagement, from detection to classification and successful interception, has taken 89 seconds. The A6, which has stopped the missile launch, attacks the launcher with cluster bombs. The following morning of the 25th of February, further air operations are conducted to find and destroy seersucker launchers. HMS Gloucester is replaced by Falklands War veteran Type 42 destroyer HMS Exeter, and in the afternoon, the surface group is in the same position with Missouri conducting coastal bombardments. Exeter receives a radio report from minesweeper HMS Atherstone that she's visually spotted a plume of smoke near the coast to their west. Her crew don't know for sure what it was, but the plume would be consistent with another seersucker launch against the surface group. Exeter alerts the other ships in the group that another potential missile could be inbound. The observed smoke was actually from the detonation of a Kuwaiti oil well near the coast by Iraqi forces, but the surface group don't know this and must treat the threat of an incoming missile very seriously.
Yes.
This time, frigate USS Jarrett is quite close to Missouri, at just 2 to 3 nautical miles. Both switch their phalanx systems into auto-engage mode. Missouri begins to launch chaff pods into the air around her, again to confuse the supposed incoming weapons radar seeker. However, as the chaff pods explode above her, dispensing thousands of metal strips into the air, USS Jarrett's phalanx system automatically classifies the chaff as a target. The gun slews to starboard and fires a 220 round burst of 20mm fire into the chaff cloud just above the Missouri. 4 of these rounds hit the Missouri herself, 2 of which penetrate lightly armoured areas of the ship, but luckily no casualties are suffered. A second chaff cloud explodes above her, and again Jarrett's phalanx opens fire on it, but this time is manually shut off by an alert sailor.
Good.
The events shown here are the only attempts by the Iraqi military to directly attack coalition warships in the Gulf. The more continuous threat was posed by Iraqi naval mines, an obstacle that would have made an amphibious assault on the Kuwaiti coast perilous. No such assault was attempted in the end, but General Norman Schwarzkopf would later say he had every intention of conducting amphibious operations if they became necessary, and that he was glad that Saddam feared such a possibility enough to concentrate his forces inside Kuwait, allowing for the ease of the ground forces left hook north and east to cut them off when the ground campaign commences.
I used to watch Jingles. Oh, it was like my #1 channel to go to when I wanted to see something. Because I played World of Warships myself back in the day. So I always watched Jingles. And wow, that is so cool. You never know. You never really know what stories you're going to hear. The length and breadth of some of these stories that are going to come across. And where people have been. You just don't know them. I'll tell you this, I've met a couple throughout my time. I've actually ran into old friends in the most random locations. I was in drama class with a guy, and we weren't friends, weren't enemies, but weren't friends. You know, we weren't really close acquaintances. I ran into him a year and a half after we got out of high school in the line for a movie. And it was just, I looked over and saw him there. I was like, what in the world? Another friend of mine, childhood friend of mine, I hadn't seen him for over a decade. I'm sitting in a casino in Reno getting ready to go to one of the restaurants there with my in-laws, and I just look over and I see a familiar pair of glasses and face, and I just like, what in the world? What are you doing here? Now, the people that I knew were, if I served with somebody and I knew where they were from and I was in those cities, I'd never find them there. In fact, I don't think I've run into one person I served with out in the open, which is kind of sad, really. I'd love to run into some of these people. I'd love to meet them again. I'd love to catch up with them. But that's neither here nor there. It's amazing that he was there for that. and he has a story like that to share. I myself, for what I did, I was in command and control, what we called CIC, which would be kind of the operations room of what he was, what Jingle's ship was doing. But yeah, that would, I would have known exactly what was going on. I would have known what was going on. Warpugs, the operations room, the Battleship Missouri, and the one time that they tried to shoot at our boats. It's a story. In the grand scheme of things, it means very, very little to the overall battle. It's just a side note to everything else that happened. But now, it's me knowing more of the history of one of my favorite people on this platform. I have not checked him out in years. I'm gonna go check him out after this. Just sit down and just check out something that he's up to now, because I haven't seen him in so long. That's just cool to me. So, massive appreciation to the operations room for reminding me of a channel that I spent so much time years ago watching. Warpugs, I'm going to take off from here. All the operations rooms links are in the description down below. Please go check them out. Join as a member of Patreon. Catch yourself a shirt, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later, Warpugs.